I think it is being recorded already. Yeah, so this is sort of the outline of what we'll go through today about preprints, what they are, how they relate to open science, what is the current landscape of preprints, especially in life sciences, although they're not limited to life sciences, but also some sort of possible questions in how, if somebody wants to publish a preprint, what sort of steps do they have to follow through? But first, let's talk about who I am. I am an academician, but also I'm a scientific researcher at University of Dar es Salaam. And my main areas of expertise are biotechnology, especially microbial biotechnology. I also do research on microbiomes in any system, environmental microbiome or host-related microbiomes. I have a very strong passion for science communication and advocacy, which has also evolved into an area of research. There are a few things I'm involved, which I'm passionate about. I'm a member of THGO, Tanzania Human Genetics Organization, where most of the activities I engage in are related to science communication and advocacy, but also at Biotechnology Society of Tanzania. I also engage in communication activities. And one of my passions is open science. And as an individual, I engage in open science activities, but also as an ASAP Bio Fellow and eLife Ambassador. My hobbies, I love plants in any form, and I love to read books especially, and I love nature, I love hikes. And people can reach me out in social media at Annette David. And this presentation was adapted from a format that we use at ASAP Bio that was made by Iratse. So that's why you see hashtags and accounts from ASAP Bio and Iratse account. So a bit about ASAP Bio, from which this presentation is adapted. It's a biologist-driven nonprofit organization whose main activity is to make life science communication more open, more faster and transparent. And we think that preprints is the best way to achieve an open, fast and transparent science communication. So we advocate really for preprints usage in science communication. Moving on, the first question usually is, what is a preprint? It's a word that many people come across so often. And a preprint really is just a scholarly manuscript that is posted by authors on a platform or repository to facilitate open and broad sharing of scientific findings or scientific literature. So simply a manuscript posted on a repository or platform that is immediately openly accessible to anybody around the world. And John, the founder of one of the biggest preprint servers, bioRxiv and medRxiv, once said that preprints can be referred to as the director's cut to manuscripts that are submitted, because preprints have less limitations in terms of how the format and what is included in the manuscript. You know, when we publish manuscripts in journals, they have strict guidelines on what you should include, what you should not include, the format, the length, but preprints are free of all these restrictions. And that means people get like all the details and the content of a scientific manuscript. If you have read Nature articles, you may realize that usually they are very short and succinct. And a lot of things, especially the methodology section, may be very brief. But with preprints, you get all the details that may be necessary to understand the manuscript or to duplicate a manuscript. So that's what preprints are. So one of the things people want to know is also, how are preprints similar to journal, like traditional journal articles, and how different they are. So when we start with similarities, both preprints and journal articles, they report scholarly work. It can be in sciences, in arts, social sciences, humanities, and all of these, they both report scholarly work. But also, both preprints and journal articles have a DOI. It's a digital object identifier that allows, even when the paper or the preprint is modified, it can still be tracked using the same DOI. They can both be cited in papers, in any scientific work. They both can be cited. But when you compare preprints and journals, there are several differences. So preprints are not yet peer-reviewed when they are posted to a server, while journal articles, by the time it's open, it has already gone peer review. Although preprints undergo open and continuous peer review, but journal articles usually go through peer review once, and then they are published either in print or online. Again, preprints also allow updates and versions. Once you publish a manuscript, unless there is a huge change or data, you can add as an addendum, but it's not custom. While for preprints, you can post the first version as early as you have some data and you have written a manuscript. You can post the first version, and then people can give you comments or feedback, or you can get like better figures or better analysis. And then you can post another version, and all these are linked. And somebody, when they look at that preprint, they can be told that this is a third version, a fourth version, but there were other two versions, and they can look at how it is evolving. But also, it is easier to correct and update preprints compared to journal articles. Once you publish, it's done. You either take it down or just add an addendum, but it's easier to, as I said, to publish a different version with corrections on a preprint. So these are sort of the differences and similarities. And then another thing we can look at, it's how preprints are related to open science, which is a movement that is gaining traction all over the world right now in terms of making science more open and accessible to everybody. It's especially relevant to us in the developing countries, where we usually don't have access to paid journals, to subscription journals, and it may be difficult to do literature review when a large part of the scientific literature or scholarly literature is locked behind these paywalls. So open science is a movement that's gaining traction, and preprints contributes actively to open science. So let us see how. In 2021, UNESCO came together and made recommendations for open science. And these are sort of international guidelines that institutions and countries can use in terms of how to guide open science in their respective areas. And one of those recommendations, recommendation number 6, says something about promoting innovative approaches for open science at different stages of scientific process. And this means to promote openness in all stages of scientific process. And when we say all stages, it means in data collection, it means when we analyze data, or how we analyze data, and the methods we use and protocols. And when we publish, we should publish open, and even post-publication in terms of reviews and comments on scientific or scholarly communication. I know this may sound counterintuitive. Someone may ask, how can I make my data collection process open, or my data analysis process open? If you cannot be open during the process, but also when you publish, you can make information such as metadata or protocols that were used, they can be made open so other people can also replicate, or they can also review. So yeah, open science is about making, improving openness of the entire scientific process from the start to the end. And the goal is to improve quality, to improve reproducibility, and to encourage community-driven collaborations and innovative models of communication, such as preprints. And there are several ways in which preprints are a tool for open science. And the first one is how preprints facilitate a fast dissemination of findings. On average, it takes 24 hours to 48 hours to publish a preprint. Once you have it ready, you submit it to a preprint server. There is a short moderation process, and then it is open. Compared to journal articles, if anybody has published here, like 6 months is like a short time from when you submit to get peer review. You get comments back and forth, editors, like 6 months is a very short time. It usually takes a year. So that shortens speed of communication. And sometimes it is very important to have findings out there very quickly. For example, when we were dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, people who were doing research on COVID-19 actually published a lot of those findings as preprints, so that they were accessible faster, and other people, instead of duplicating effort, can move on to other areas which are unexplored. But also people who are developing drugs and intervention strategies could find these scholarly works quicker than if they had to wait for journal publication for 6 months, a year. That would be too late. So preprints allow for a faster dissemination of scholarly work. But also preprints allow broad access. As I said, once you publish a preprint on a server, it's open for anyone, anywhere in the world to read as long as they have internet access. But we know traditional journal articles may be open or maybe behind a paywall. You find a paper, nice paper, you read an abstract, and then you are told, pay $36 to access this paper. That is not an issue with preprints. And also speed of dissemination repeats, but open outputs, it allows for sharing of not only the publication or the paper, but associated data, materials, which may also be an important part of scientific or scholarly communication, but traditional journal articles don't allow sharing of all these methodology, protocols, and other associated materials. But with preprints, that is possible. This is a duplicate. So that's how preprints contribute to open science. And then if we can talk briefly about preprints in life sciences, I assume many of us here are life scientists, but other people may be involved. They shouldn't be discouraged. They can also use preprints in their respective fields. But preprints have been used for a while. It's not a new concept. It's not a very new concept right now. And the first preprint server was Archive, which was started by scientists who do research in physics. And it started in the 1960s, and then it went on and it got a backlash or a push from traditional journal articles, and then it did not do very well, but it still continues to this day and has, I think, about a few millions of published articles in this server. But also in 1960s, there was an experiment by NIH in the US. They started an information exchange group where they, like scientists, would exchange manuscripts which are not published within their own cycles. But then around 1967, it was stopped due to cost on how to run it, but also resistance from traditional journals. Archive was actually started in 1991, not in the 60s, and it was a community of researchers who conduct physics research, and they wanted to share early findings or early manuscripts of their papers. So they cover physics, mathematics, computer science, quantitative biology, and other related fields. And they host over 2 million preprints at the moment. So preprints is not a very new concept, something that started a bit a while back on and off, but now it has taken steam and many people are engaged in it. And if we look at different preprint servers in life sciences, one of the leading servers in life sciences preprint server is bioRxiv, and they publish research in life sciences, biological and life sciences. They have a variant that is medRxiv for all medical related research, goes to medRxiv. But also there is Research Square, the other preprints, but preprints.org, Authorea preprints, ChemArchive, and some of these servers are restricted to the specific fields. Some of them are a bit bold. So you can see the number of preprints has been growing steadily in this graph. And around 2022, going 2023, there were more than 500,000 articles on bioRxiv alone. And monthly, you can see the trends have been also growing in terms of how many articles are published as preprints in different servers, starting with bioRxiv and other servers as well. So there is a growing use of preprints in life sciences and other fields all over the world. And in 2021, especially because of the pandemic, 11% of scientific literature was published as preprints, especially in Europe. And there are many servers now that publish preprints, and some of these servers are associated to traditional journal articles. So nowadays, you may notice if you send your paper to Elsevier journals or to Springer Nature Group, even if they decline it to publish it, they will send you a separate email that you can put your article as a preprint while it's going through editorial process. So even journals have now realized that preprint is the future, is where scholarly communication is going, and they want to take part of that. So even if they decline your paper, they will tell you you can publish it as a preprint, and then you can publish it elsewhere. So this chart shows when different preprint servers were established. Starting from before 2017, there was preprints.org, there was OSF, and then many more preprints came. There is Africa Archive, which is specific for African research. There is Research Square, which is associated, I think, to either Frontiers or Elsevier. I'm not sure. medArchive came, in 2021, eLife came. So you can see that there is a growing number of avenues where one may choose to publish their manuscripts as a preprint. And preprint varies across different disciplines in life sciences. And one of the leading life sciences field where preprints are very common is neuroscience. And then that is followed by microbiology and then bioinformatics. And I think bioinformatics and genomics, genetics, evolutionary biology, these are related. And if anybody is doing bioinformatics now, they know that bioinformatics has a very strong open culture in terms of you cannot publish a paper if your data is not deposited in an open repository, for example. So that's also extended, like people who do bioinformatics research, they usually want to publish their work, to make their work accessible. I think that is very ingrained into the culture of bioinformatics research. People who develop analysis pipelines, software and tools, they also usually put them in open repositories. You find codes in GitHub. Yeah, so it's a strong culture, so I'm not surprised bioinformatics is one of the strong fields in life sciences where preprints are very common. And these are the data from only bioRxiv, one of the leading preprint servers in life sciences. But also preprints usage vary all over the world. North America, of course, is leading, with the United States leading, and also Asia and some countries in Europe. But if you look at Africa, usage, the total number of preprints is still very, very low. And there is still a need for greater awareness, but also integrating preprints into the usual scholarly communication process. And other people may worry that if I publish a preprint, I may not be able to publish my work in other journals because we want to communicate our findings. That's one of the primary reasons why we publish our findings, but also publications count towards promotion. They count towards, if somebody who is doing postgraduate studies, usually you have to publish some papers in specific journals. There are very specific instructions before you can graduate. So somebody may be worried that if I publish a preprint, will I be able to publish this work as a paper? Yes, many journals now, these are just some of the examples of the biggest journals, including Nature, PNAS, Cell, BMC group of publishers, PLOS group of publishers, Science group of publishers. These are some of the journals and many, many more that already allow people to publish preprints. You don't even have to publish on their own servers because now most of them have their own servers. You can publish in any preprint server, and then when you are submitting a journal, even the instructions, they have instructions that we accept work that has not been published elsewhere, except as a preprint. So that should not be a concern or a worry. You can publish as a preprint. You can leave it as a preprint. I have some papers which are just preprints. I don't intend to publish them as normal journal articles, but also if you want, you can publish as a journal articles. And there are some databases such as Transpose and list this Wikipedia page of a list of academic publishers by preprint policy. So if you're not sure, you can, once you know the journal, you can either check on your journal publishing policy, or you can check these databases and see if your publisher allows publishers preprints also. So someone may wonder, why should they publish a preprint if they're going to publish a journal article anyway, in most cases? There are several reasons for that. And one of the reasons it's preprints provide proof of productivity, because as we said, traditional publication takes a long time. If somebody has published, they know. If you have not published, you should prepare for this mentally. If you have 3 years of doing a PhD, for example, or 2 years of doing a master's, by the beginning of the first year, you should already have a manuscript already submitted, so that you have this 6 months to a year of going back and forth. Journal 1 may decline, Journal 2 may take 2 months to respond, reviewers may take 3 months to get back to you. So it usually takes time. And sometimes you need to show proof of productivity to graduate school. You need to show proof of productivity to get a promotion. You need to show proof of productivity to get an opportunity. You're applying for a postdoc, for a PhD, and things like that. So preprints allow people to show proof of productivity, that they have been active researchers and they have this work to show while they wait for journal articles if they are publishing articles. And many organizations now, including the NIH, the Wellcome Trust, Human Frontier Science Program, they accept preprints as a proof of productivity. Some, especially in Africa, they still don't acknowledge preprints. They still don't know what preprints are, and that's why we are doing a lot of this advocacy work, because it also makes our work and life easier as scientists, as researchers. But many institutions are now getting on board in acknowledging and accepting preprints as a proof of productivity. For example, EMBO postdoctoral fellowships, they accept preprints as a proof of productivity, and they have this statement in their website. And another reason it's, as I said, publishing has become much harder and slower over time. Like, it takes much longer now for people to have a first author paper published compared to in the past. And sometimes this is a requirement for applying for a job, for an opportunity, for a postgraduate degree. So it takes much longer to get a first author paper. Even for myself, I think I graduated from my master's without a first author paper. And then maybe 2 years after I graduated from my master's, that's when I got a first author paper. So back then I did not know about preprints, but if I knew about preprints, it would have been easier to show that proof of productivity. And there are usually concerns about preprints, and people may wonder, what about scooping? Like, what if I publish and people scoop and then publish before me? And there was this survey that it was conducted among preprint publishers, and proof of scooping, fear of scooping was not a strong reason, that people did not find it as a strong concern. Because once you publish as a preprint, even if somebody publishes later in a journal, the preprint is already proof enough that this work, you did it first. Because sometimes, especially in fields where people are at the frontiers or they're discovering new things, people are concerned that other people may scoop them or may see their results in a preprint and conduct experiments quickly and go ahead of them. But once you publish as a preprint, it is counted as your own work. And actually, usually what happens is that instead of leading to scooping, preprints usually lead to more and strong collaborations. I will show, I think, my own experience with this. So usually preprints attract other like-minded people in early stages of a research, and they have led to collaborations instead of actually people trying to compete. I think it's a very different culture compared to traditional journal publishing. This person, Josh, on the left here, that they saw somebody published something they were doing and they thought they were scooped, but they reached out, and instead of being competitors, these people collaborated and they published something together. Other people say that, what if I share information on a preprint, and then when it's time to publish a paper, I have data which now looks different from when it was a preprint? How can they change that? And this paper showed that there was a research that compared papers that were published first as preprints, and then later they were published as paper. they show that results that were published as preprint did not differ significantly as results that were published as traditional journal articles. So that also is not a fear that people should prevent people from publishing preprints. Yeah. Another reason it's to publish preprints, it's that it allows community commenting and review. And we say that preprints are not peer-reviewed articles yet, but once you put it online, the preprint servers, the way they are designed, they allow anybody to read and comment and to comment on the paper. And sometimes this can be a form of review. And actually, my experience has been that papers that are published, I publish as preprints, have received much more comments and critical review than papers that are published in traditional journals. Because traditional journals rely on a few people, they send to maybe 4 or 5 reviewers who may be busy or not, who may fit or may not fit. But a preprint is open to anybody can read. And if they have expertise, or even if they don't have expertise, they can comment. And usually this helps to improving the work. And for example, ASABio has this crowd preprint review where we select certain preprints in a field of study, and we give ourselves maybe a week. We all read, we all give comments, and then we go post these comments on preprint servers such as bioRxiv. So this can count in as peer review, but also it helps the researcher to improve their paper now or in the future. If they're conducting similar experiments, they can improve their papers, but also to find collaborators. You may find somebody gives a very good suggestion and maybe you don't have the expertise or knowledge on how to do that. You can reach out to them and you can collaborate on that particular work or future works. Now we have seen what preprints are and how they relate to journal articles. Let us see if somebody now wants to publish a preprint, what sort of the steps they need to go through or to follow. First, the first step, which is very important, you need to get everybody, all authors on board. Many of us here are students or we are people in research groups. We have supervisors, we have PIs, or even if we are PIs ourselves. I think it's very important to talk to other co-authors like, okay, we have our paper ready. Usually people want to publish the traditional journal articles, which may take forever, as we discussed. But you can say, okay, so we are still going to publish, but can we publish as a preprint? And sometimes you will face resistance. The first time I told my then PhD supervisor, they did not know what preprints were. And they were like, no, what is that? What if we publish and people steal our ideas and stuff like that? And then I was very persistent and patient as well. I would go back and explain and show them the servers and show them other preprints. And yeah, eventually we did publish. That was my first PhD paper. By the time we got to the third PhD paper, he was on board and he was like, okay, which server can we publish this paper, a strong server, which is more relevant to this paper compared to the first paper, for example. So he was very excited about it. Once we published, he would go online and see their comments. He would respond to the comments, although I submitted the paper. So it can take some time. You may need to explain the advantages and the process, but this is the first step to get everybody on board. Do not skip this process. People may get really angry if they find out later. Second step is to choose a preprint server. As you have seen, there are many preprint servers. Some of them I mentioned here, but there is this, if you go to asapbio.org preprint servers, you will get a list of different servers for different fields, but also you can just Google what are preprint servers in my field, like if you're field public health, for example, and then you get a different list of servers. You can consider many factors while choosing visibility, like how popular or how relevant it is to your field. Funder recommendations, if your research was funded by an organization, they may have some recommendations. Are these servers, are they indexed somewhere? Things like that. And these are some of the examples in life sciences, servers in life sciences. For example, AgriArchive is for agricultural research. Research Square is general. Africa Archive is relevant for African research. bioRxiv for biological research, life sciences. There is medRxiv. There are many servers. So you have your own criteria and reasons, and then you can choose a server appropriately. And then if you plan to publish as a paper later, you can also check journal policies, as we discussed. If you already know which journal you are going to publish in, you can check their policy. So far, I have not had any problem with publishing. All the journals I've published to accept preprints. They are okay with publishing preprints, but also you can go to transpose database to check different journal article policies about preprints. And this example, for example, the Nature portfolio, they say they encourage preprint posting, and you may already submit to Nature and then submit the paper to preprint. You may submit to preprint first and then submit to Nature. Cell Press, for example, they do not support posting of revised manuscript, but preprints are okay. But eLife recently has moved to preprint mode entirely. Like when you submit to eLife, they just look at it, the manuscript. If it fits, they publish it as preprint immediately. And then after that, they allow public review. Like they have changed the entire model of publication to be more like that of preprint. So you just need to check in advance. Once everybody's on board, you know your preprint saver, you have spoken to your co-authors, and you know the journal policies, you can choose a license. And usually you allow other people to revise and cite to revise your work or to reuse your work. And there are different licenses, and they differ in terms of how open things are. I go by CC Creative Commons, the second license usually, which means my work is open. I allow other people to use it as long as they credit the authors. That is the most commonly used license. And then after that, you just prepare your preprint and post a preprint. And then if you have some data, you have some code or resources, you can link them. Usually preprint servers allow publication to link like metadata, protocols, and things like that. And that's it. Within 48 hours, you get an email that your preprint is open. And this is sort of the general process. Like if you're publishing a preprint, you have your manuscript here, you submit to a saver, within 48 hours is open. But if you want to publish as a paper, you may have your manuscript, you can submit to a first journal, it may be declined after 2-3 months. Second journal, maybe 2 reviewers may say yes, 1 reviewer may say no, then it's declined, and then you can revise, you go to journal 3, takes a few months or even a years, and then that's when you get your paper out, while the preprint is already out for 48 hours. And at the same time, preprint allows community feedback and review. And as a bonus, after publishing a preprint, I usually encourage people to share on social media and other platforms, mailing lists, department mailing lists, wherever platforms you are. And this is because it encourages other people to read, but also to share if it is relevant to them. It encourages other people to comment and review, which can be some sort of peer review process. But it's also a more transparent process and also a wider reach. We all publish, we want people to read our work. It does not make sense if our work is published and then nobody reads it, nobody cites it, nobody comments on it. We all aim that for people in our fields, in our specific communities, but also the wider general audience to read our work. So I usually encourage people, if you're on social media, you share. If not, it's never too late to get on social media as scientists or scholars, but also other platforms such as mailing lists. But also it just starts a conversation. People will ask, oh, what is a preprint? What is this? And you never know. It may reach to our universities and research institutes management, and they may acknowledge preprints one day, because at the moment, many don't. Then lastly, I want to share my personal experience publishing preprints, how I started the journey, how has it been like. I so far have 7 preprints, and they're published in 5 servers. At the beginning, I like to experiment and experience different servers and their policies, how they are, how seamless they are. And I have some preference over the other because I have my own criteria, but so far I have 7 preprints. And now it has become a natural process of publication for me. Like once I have a manuscript, I'm like, oh, good. I prepare it, make sure it reads well and everything. And then I put it as a preprint. And then I submit it to a journal. And for me, the advantages, has been to make findings available as soon as possible. And I said, if it's a very competitive field, or if it's an emerging field, or in case of pandemics and emerging challenges like COVID-19, you don't want to wait a year to publish findings on a global pandemic, right? So that has been the advantage for me. Okay, I'm not doing COVID research, but also in my field, I just want to make my findings available while the journals are crawling to get to publish my papers. But also it has helped me to increase my visibility and networking. Like I've met so many people, once I publish a paper, people may read it, they may like, oh, you're interested in this field. For example, we just published a preprint on preprint culture in Africa. And I think this organization reached out, they want to have a conversation around that. I think it's gonna be in February. And we may have follow-up research or establish a collaborative group. But preprints have been a source of a lot of collaborations for me in my personal experience, but also openness and transparency. It forces me to think hard before I publish anything. Because in journal articles, you may publish and forget about it, but in preprints, people are going to read, they're going to comment, they're going to ask, are you sure you did this? Was this a significant difference? Which methodology? Why did you do this? So it helps me to, with my science integrity, not that I don't have any, but science integrity is very difficult. Sometimes you have a very good data set and one outlier, you may be tempted to remove it or to do something, but preprints force me to really think critically before I put my work out there. This is my Google Scholar account, and I have around 254 citations. The reason I'm sharing this, it's because a large part of these citations, like a quarter of the citations, come from this preprint. This was a collaborative work by eLife ambassadors. We looked just before COVID-19, we looked at scientific meetings and we published first as a preprint. And then we really struggled to publish to other journals. They would say no, until later Nature Human Behavior reached out and they were interested in the paper. I have to repeat this. Nature Human Behavior reached out to us and they wanted to publish our paper. We wanted to publish it in PLOS. PLOS declined, we went to another journal declined, while it was already a preprint saver. But then Nature Human Behavior reached out and we published the paper. So the paper has like 115 citations, but the preprint also has like 50 citations because the paper is very brief, but all the data and the databases we created are available in the preprint. So this, as I said, it's been a source of networking. It's been a source of networking, but also citations and collaboration. This has been my personal experience. So that is it about this presentation. Let us stay in touch. That's my email address. You can find me on social media at Annette David, /D. But also, I have started an open science and preprint support group. I'm going to share the link in the chat, but also you can visit Preprint Resource Center at ASAP Bio. But thank you so much for listening.